Hi, welcome back. So today let's discuss regarding the request and response object of the Express API. Like see, whatever API we create, right? We create a GET API, we create POST API. So all those API has two properties, right? The function, the callback function, and the callback function has two parameters. That is REQ and RES. So both object we are going to study today. Okay, so what is request object, what is response object, what are the methods are available in request and response object, what are the properties are available in request object and response object. So all this we are going to study. So what is the reason behind to study? You see, let's suppose client has to send, right? Client has to send the request to server, right? So client will send the request to server. Let's suppose server URL is API slash cake list, right? API slash cake list. So this client has to send, but client can send some of the data attached to this URL to the server with different way. So basically this is the URL you are seeing. Now let's suppose client has to send, okay, cake list with cake type. So either he can send slash colon cake type. So in place of colon cake type, he can just send cake list slash red velvet. That is one way to send the data to the server. Another way what we can do, either he can do question mark weight equal to 500 gram and quantity equal to 5. So that is one way to send the data from client to server. So see, when you go to client like in Facebook or Google, so you will see one login page or a register page. So you will fill the form. So once the form is filled, right, the data has to go to the server, okay, with the server URL. So that is only I'm talking about, like whatever you will fill the form, name, address. So all those things, either you can pass it via colon in the URL or via question mark, that is query, or to the body, right, using first name, last name, password, like that. So this three way we can send the data from client to server. Understood? This is the thing how we can, because basically we are going to study how the data is passed from client to server, and now how the server will capture those data, how server will capture this colon data, how the server will capture this question mark query data, how the server will capture with this request.body data, how server will capture these all data in server. Because see, once we capture the server, once we capture the data which is sent by the client, then only server can process that data, right? That is only the thing server has to do. So we are going to study these things today. Okay, so there are different kinds of properties, methods are available in request, and if server has to send back to the client, so there are different methods and properties are available in response. So two parameter already I discussed long back, right? Two parameter will be there for server to get the data from client and server to send the response back to the client. Okay, so detail of that request and response we are going to discuss today. Okay, Amar, any doubt here? Money in the sense cost. Okay, so see, either you can add cost as the weight equal to 500 gram, ampersand, okay, and symbol, money equal to 500, or else in this object you can just write comma cost colon 500, like that you can pass, or slash colon 500. Okay, so any all the three methods. So see, this is params because it's a parameter of the URL. This is called queries, so it's with question mark. So whatever question marks is there, it is query. And this is body. So three way we can send the data from the client, and three way also are there to get the data of each of the type. Like if the data is passed in place of this, like part of the URL, then that is captured using some other method, some other properties. If the data is passed using question mark and all, then there is another properties or methods are there to get the data out of that. If it is passed in the body, then there is another method of request. So as we know, there is request and response, right? So here we saw, see, server has request and response, right? So whatever client will pass these all data, server can collect here in request, and whatever server has to send like response to the client, server can keep this res. Okay, so how server will get and how server will send, what type of data client has will send, and how the server will accept all those types of data, all those way of data. So everything will done using request. So we are going to explore today REQ and RES. Okay, in detail. Understood what I'm trying to talk? Amar, it's fine. Yeah. Okay. So let's discuss, right? Okay. So see, request object already you know it represents the HTTP request, like either a GET request or POST request, right? So any request you will write, all those will have two parameter, that is REQ and RES. Either you write GET, either you write POST, either you write PUT or delete. Okay, whatever HTTP method you are calling. So every request will have REQ and RES. REQ is for getting data from the client and RES for sending data back to the client. Okay, because you are going to talk about server, so that is the reason your responsibility is only for the server. So how server takes the data from client, how server sends the data back to the client. So that is only we are going to use. Client is nothing but it's a URL. Any person is calling URL means that is trying to reach to that server. That server name is API/cakelist, and with that the client is trying to pass this data. Okay, so any HTTP request, what will be there? One URL will be there, one header will be there, one body will be there, right? So URL, either their params will be there, like colon. If colon is there, then that is params. If query is there, question mark is there, that is query. And if in body something is passed like a object type, object format, then that is body. And headers already you know, like content type application slash JSON. Okay, and this type of data we are going to pass from client to server, right? So REQ. So REQ dot params. So first is REQ dot params. So REQ dot params, what it does, it will take the params data. Okay, that in colon cake type is there. No, so if it is in colon cake type is there, then if we will pass in place of this colon cake type, let's suppose red velvet or black forest. So whatever data will pass, no, we can collect using REQ dot params. Okay, let's suppose we have question mark weight equal to 500. So we have to capture this from the URL, because this is the data coming from the client. Client will request this URL, right? So server will get this URL response. So what happens? Servers will take this using REQ dot query. Okay, server will take request of this query means REQ dot query. Okay, let's suppose server has to get all the header data, then they'll tell REQ dot headers. Okay, if server has to get which URL is getting called, so you can just write REQ dot URL. Okay, if server has to get request body, then you will just write request dot body. Okay, server has to get, in server if you want to get to know, okay, which method is called, like see, you have created thousands of API, but which API is getting called, either get API, post API, put API. So for that method you can write REQ dot methods. Okay, if you want to understand the path, like what path, the path is basically this API/cakelist. So and this entire, so this path you can get REQ dot path. Okay, if you want to get which protocol it's calling, either HTTP or HTTPS, so that you can get using REQ dot protocol. Means these all are the helper properties and method of the server to get data from the client. Okay, to receive data from the client, because client will send in all these methods all this way, and then server can capture one piece of the data by these all properties and methods. Okay, REQ.get. REQ.get is nothing but it's a collecting the headers data, because the header will have content type, header will have accept, header will have some other properties. So any specific if you want to get, you can write content type. Okay, in that. REQ.original URL is nothing but it's an entire URL. Okay, so that is REQ. So let's start with one small API. Okay, and let's call that API from Postman, and let's try to capture all of the things based on these all. Okay, based on this all. So as you can see here, see, so you can see any request will have URL first, right? Protocol. So protocol is nothing but HTTP or HTTPS. Query data. Query data is nothing but it's a question mark, whatever it's written, that is query data. Params data. So params data, what we'll call? We'll call anywhere in the URL, if it is slash colon, whatever it is there, no, that in place of that we'll pass the data. So that data is nothing but params data. Headers data already you know, whatever it passed in the headers. Okay, method. So method is nothing but get, post, put, delete. That is methods. Body data is nothing but whatever will pass in the body. Okay, so that we can get request dot body. Understood? So how we can collect? So let's suppose anyone is trying to call API/user/cakelist. Okay, and then they are passing red velvet. So any red velvet is passing. So this, to capture this, what we have to call? We have to call request dot params. So in request params you will get the data of this. If you want to get query, then request dot query. So whatever the user will pass like question mark query, that will be captured here. Okay, request dot URL. So what URL the user is calling, so that you can capture here using REQ dot headers. You will get the headers data. REQ dot URL, you will get the complete URL. req.methods, you will get the method, like which method. So this is get method, so you will get as a response. req.protocol, so what protocol you are calling for? You are calling for HTTP or HTTPS, so based on that protocol will display. Okay, same way, this all I'm printing here, and then I'm sending back response to the client. So let's try to test it. Okay, so let's create once more time. I'll just set up Express. Okay, so npm I Express. Okay, I'm just installing the Express package. So you can see there is a package.json, log.json already things has created. Now let's try to set up the Express. So already we know how to set up the Express. Okay. Okay. So let's first call the API. Okay. Let's first start the server. Listen 3000, comma, and then I'm just writing callback function to get it call, to get it happen. Okay. Now just I'll write here console.log, and I'll just write server started at port 3000. Okay, so server, let's see the server is started. So let's try to run the server. Node index.js. Now see, server is started. Now let's suppose I wanted to call first API, right? So first API I wanted to call get API. So I'll just break the server once again, and I'll just write app dot get. Okay, so this time I'm going to test. This time I'm going to test the query data. Okay, so I'm just writing get the query data from client using request.query. Okay, so just I'll write here get. So already you know there will be path first, right? So I'll just write slash API slash user, or let's suppose I'm just writing same thing like slash cake list. Okay, and then I'm trying to get the query data. Okay, so query data, let's try to get the query data. Okay, now let's get the query data. So query data, how we'll get? Request query equal to req dot query. So whatever you will pass in the URL with question mark, all will be captured using request.query, and let's try to print it. So console.log, and I'll just print request query data from client. Okay, so I'll just pass query. Okay, and after that I'll just send it to response.send. So just I'll write here success, something like that. It will just send to the client. Okay, so this is one thing. Now let's run the server. So server is running, get request is there. Now let's try to call the get request. So get request, how we'll call? Localhost. So how the call will be there? It will be like http colon slash slash localhost, okay, colon 3000, because server is running on the 3000. So 3000 slash, now which API? This API. So slash API slash cake list. Okay, so after this what we thought? We thought to collect the query data. So query data is nothing but question mark, let's suppose weight equals 500 gram, and quantity equals 5, and cost equals 200. Okay, like this we are passing the three data while calling this URL. So like that we are going to call. So let's try to copy this, and let's try to call in the browser. Okay, so let's try to call in the browser. First we are going to check browser, because it's a get request, so get request can be called from browser. Okay, don't call post request from the browser, but get you can call from the browser. Okay, so see, so in this get call, what I am trying to do, I'm trying to pass weight as 500 gram and quantity has 5 and cost as 200. So these all, this is browser. Browser is nothing but it's a client, and our server is the VS Code which is running here, right? So here we'll receive whatever the client will pass from browser. Okay, or later this is like a link, but later it will be like click of this button or any UI page wherever you click or you will do something. So that is went. Okay, so this is client. So let's trigger now. Now once I'll do enter, now you can see in the backend. So I did enter, I got response as success. Okay, and now here see here what you got, request query data from the client. So what request query you got, weight as 500, quantity as 5 and cost as 200. So you will get proper object you got, right? See, weight as 500, quantity as 5 and cost as 200. So basically server has received the data through the client. So this is client. So client is just entering here, right? Means just calling this server, that is cake list, and client is passing okay, weight 500 and quantity 5 and cost 200. So server has received this. Now server can do anything with this data, right? It can send it to database, or it can send it to get the things like from the database. So anything server can do. Understood, Amar? How to get the query data? Two things are there. One is passing the query data from client, how to pass the query data from client, so using question mark and all. And one is once the client is passing this data, how to collect it from on the server. So how to collect it from the server? So that is req.query. So if you will write req.query, you will get all the data which is passed in this URL. Okay, which is passed in this URL. So that is request query data. Okay, now see, now let's go for another way. So another way, what is there? So another way is app dot get, okay, slash API slash cake list, okay, slash, okay, slash. Now let's suppose it's taking the cake type. So colon cake type. So why I have written colon here? Because it needs the dynamic data. Okay, whatever client they see from here to here, client has to pass compulsory the same. But this colon to this, no, client has to pass different data. Okay, not like cake type. Understood? So now we'll just try to capture the data. Now see. Okay, now let's try to copy paste this entire. Okay, so this time the server will not take the query data. This time server wants to take this data. Okay, so it will be request dot params. Okay, so request dot params means this will be converted as a key, and the value will be converted as the value. Okay, now request params data from the client. Request params, right? And same thing I'm passing. Success response. Once now you see one entry you have added. So if you are adding one entry, you need to restart. So how to restart? Just click on here, type Control C, it will break. Server will break, and again do node space index.js, server will restart. So this time server has taken all the two requests, right? So now let's try to call from the client. So call from the client will happen like this, not like query, because we are not interested to query. But it's a client cake list slash, don't write here colon, because many people I'm seeing fresher while calling the request also they'll write colon red velvet. Okay, this is not a correct one. This is just colon will be just provided to the server side. This is client side. Now what client will do, server will do, server will try to match till here, and then server will check. Okay, this is red velvet, right? And in the server side, the data is what? Server side the data is cake type. So in place of cake type, server will receive that data. Okay, server will receive that data. Okay, fine. So let's try to, already we restarted. Now let's try to call. So red velvet. Now once red velvet will come, this red velvet name will go as a request.params using key name as cake type and red velvet as the value. So now let's again try to trigger. So once we trigger, we can see success response has came. And if you go to this one, you can see request params data from the client. We have got cake type. So cake type is nothing but whatever colon cake type. So whatever name is that, that same name. So to that name, we are providing red velvet. So red velvet where you got from? You got from request.params. Okay. So if you want to collect from params, you can use this. If you want to collect from query, you can use this. Got it, Amar? Any doubt? Okay, so we are studying how the data is passed from client to server and how the server will capture all those data which is passed from client to server. Then only server can process, right? If server won't get to know your query or your data, then how server can process, how the server can solve your problem, right? So those all things are there for this. Okay, understood now what I'm trying to talk? Okay, so same way header data, method data, these are you can practice, no problem. Okay, similar way, like sending the response back to the client. So what are the features? Like see, already we know RES is nothing but it's a sending response back to the client. Hello, Amar. Yeah, tell me any doubt? Mute it on. Okay. So how we'll send, like see, one server has received the data either from body, either from query, either from params. So server has to send back to the client something. So to send back to the client data, we have these all method for REST, not the request, REST. So request, sorry, response object, rest.send. Rest.send, what it will do? It will send any type of data, either string, either buffer, okay, any type of data it will send. So if you will write rest.send and then hello world, it will just send back to the client, like how we did just now. We did rest.send success. So it's sending the success to the client side as a response because the server, that was server. Understood? So here it is written rest.send hello world. Now rest.json. Rest.json is it's a JSON response. Like JSON is something I already discussed, right? JavaScript object notation where I have double quotes, issue, all those very restricted language, right? So all those also this company can take it. We can collect, sorry, all those also we can collect using REQ and RES we can send back to the client, right? So same way, JSON also we can see in the JSON format we can send. Auto. Okay, so see we can send the JSON format in object. So message hello world. So it will send back to the message and hello world. So let's try this. So see if you try to send, you can send success. But if you try to if you want to try JSON, then just write JSON, and in place of this, you can just create an object. You can just write data colon. Okay, so any changes you do, you have to restart the server. Okay, don't forget this. This is very important topic. Otherwise, you will be writing the code, but you will think tell like no, it's not getting called because you are not starting the server. Okay, now let's try to again check. See, we got response as, so this is the basically response coming from the server because we are the server, right? We have created the server here. So from here itself, it's going this data back to the client. So client is calling this URL and client is getting this response. Okay, understood this much, Amar? Okay, got it. So same way we have JSON file. Now if you want to send the status, like if you want to send the status code, right? Like 200, 400, 300, 200, so 414 or 500. So all the status code is sent using res dot status 404, and then inside send you can pass combination of all these two. You can pass the message like why it is failing. Okay, status code is send the this one. Now rest.set. Set is nothing but if you want to send like to the client side from server to client, like some header information like content type is application slash JSON. So that time also you can use set method. Okay, set method and then send method. Okay, if you want to send any file from the server to client, then you can use send dot file length. Okay, so you can create any file in future if you need. You have to submit to your mom, dad. You can just hide once and you can let it go. Okay, Amar, understood how the data, how the file is passed? Okay, how the file is passed. Okay, so this is the way file is passed. Okay, so that's it for today, Amar. So understood about how the data is requested and how the data is passed.